Thank you, Maureen.
You're welcome. So Mike Chisholm is calling in.
This is Mike. I got in.
Okay, Mike, I got you.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Sonia Strom just signed in.
Thank you. Chairperson Green, I'm letting you know that Mike Chisholm is on the phone this evening.
Okay, thank you. Is that the phone number in attendees?
That is correct.
So will you please make me a co-host? Member Chisholm, are you able to speak right now to where we can hear you?
Yeah,
Okay,
yes,
I can
I
hear
am.
you. Okay, good.
okay.
Stay for a while. Hold temperatures, so brace yourself. Now the sunshine dipped on us out for today. Tomorrow afternoon through the early Friday morning.
Everyone, please stay on mute unless you've been called on. Okay, we have a quorum. Call this meeting of the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee to order. Ms. Willis, will you please take roll?
Will you please all unmute yourself so you can say aye when I ask your name? Chair Green,
Present?
Vice Chair Watson. Absent. Member Strom,
Present.
Member Hughes,
Present.
Member Chisholm,
Present.
Member Emmelhines,
Present.
alternate Member Redovid.
Present.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting?
I motion we,
moved.
I second.
Who was the first? Member Emmelhines? Or
No, it was Member
Chisholm?
Strom. Member
Member
Strom.
Strom, thank you. And seconded by Member Hughes, appreciate it. Was there any discussion? Did anyone have any edits or anything? Okay, then, please take a vote on that. Ms. Willis,
I'll call names.
thank you.
Chair Green,
Yay,
Member Strom,
Yay.
Member Hughes,
Yay.
Member Chisholm,
Yay.
Member Emmelhines,
Yay.
Member Radovid.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just confirming, member Emil Hines, you're the phone number 1763.
No, that's Chisholm.
No, that's not me.
Okay, so we actually
It's
do have
Member
a,
Chisholm. It is Member Chisholm on the phone.
okay, but I'm trying to identify whether we have a public attendee or not.
We do not.
Okay, so the phone number that shows up as 1763 is member Chisholm, which is what I asked.
That's correct.
Thank you. This would be when we normally do the public forum. No member of the public is present, so we'll skip over this and move into code enforcement significant events. Code Manager Lewis, hello.
Good evening. I'm just finishing up my dinner. It's been kind of a long day. So thanks for your patience. First off, I don't have any new major information to bring forward other than the Title VII information will be heard that you all voted on Monday at council for the first, I believe, the first reading. If there was any other concerns or questions you all had on that, if you wanted to bring those forward right now, if that's possible, to see if there's anything else I needed to discuss with you all.
Are you asking in regard to the reports?
No, to Title VII change that you all voted on last time, if there was any,
Oh,
since it's been a month or almost 4 weeks, I just wanted to make sure that you didn't have any additional questions in reference to that.
Councilmember Russell?
Thank you. So Code Manager Lewis, I actually was going to talk to the committee about perhaps adding something. I don't know that it will get added on first reading to address the Good Samaritan issue. So anyway, I don't know if you want to address that now or if I should bring that up later.
I'm comfortable talking about it.
Yeah, please let us know what you're thinking, City Council Member Russell.
What I asked the council to reconsider, and I just did this in council members' choice, I will bring it up when we are discussing, because it was very clear in your discussions that whether a dog is taken in by police or code enforcement personnel, or whether it's taken in by a Good Samaritan, it is still an impounded dog. And I have concerns about that. I understand that if it is a habitual problem, but I would just like this committee to perhaps discuss that Good Samaritan issue and see if there is something, and it doesn't, this ordinance is probably going to pass because you recommended it. But I just was going to ask you all to take a look at the Good Samaritan piece and see if there was some way we could address that in Title VII.
Did you have a suggestion to language or where that, what potentially, because I mean, when we talked through this, I thought we were all on the same page at the point we made our recommendation, but if there's like specific language that you're suggesting or change in a particular place, I'm very interested because I am personally not a fan of, you know, if somebody's dog gets out and it's not a regular thing and someone helps them out by getting it, that, and it's a dog that's been licensed, you know, not licensed, because thankfully we don't have that. But if it is up to date on shots, et cetera, and there's, you know, it's just a dog got out because of something that they take care of responsibly, so it won't happen again, that they shouldn't be punished. So, I mean, I'm in the favor of if it can be modified that way. Do you have any specific suggestions of how to make that happen?
I don't necessarily, but I mean, I like the suggestion you just made. And if the committee brought forth some something along those lines, I would be okay with that. I do have one question for you, Code Manager Lewis. Council did raise the impound fee. Do you remember what it was? I mean, it's fairly substantial.
Yeah, so it went from 250 to 300, but that fee does not apply to Good Samaritan. So I wanted to let all of you know that that is when code enforcement has to go and take an action to impound that animal. It is not a fee that a person would have to incur if an animal is impounded. That's a cost recovery fee. And I wouldn't add any changes to the ordinance. That would be my professional recommendation. It's more of a process concern, but I would also ask, then you would be asking us to alter processes related to Good Samaritans who call and say, oh, I found this dog, it's now in my backyard, or I found this dog, I dropped it off at the vet, and the vet calls us. It's a whole process change, which is probably a bigger discussion than this particular ordinance, because this is not, the Good Samaritan portion is not part of the ordinance. It just allows for the process of impoundment, changes to dangerous dog, everything that we discussed. And that is something that we can discuss, and you can make a recommendation to council, and council can give direction related to those types of impounds in the future. But we still have health and safety concerns that we have related to any animal that's impounded.
Right, and I agree with that, and I do believe the ordinance addresses those things, and I greatly appreciate the committee talking about that. So just one more question, Code Manager Lewis, on the impound fee, that doesn't necessarily apply immediately though, does it? I mean, is it more long-term?
So the impound fee is usually as a result of some action that code enforcement has to take related to the animal. If a Good Samaritan drops it off and they happen to get an at-large ticket, it's a violation bureau. If they don't have to go to court, they go down and pay a nominal fee, which is not the impound fee. And in most cases, the violation bureau says, okay, well, we'll just give you a warning if you have no similar violations in the future. But this is one way that we can track and keep track of all of that. But that impound fee is part of what a judge would assess as part of a case, such as a dangerous dog that we impounded because it bit someone, and all of the paperwork and reporting and the cost recovery associated with that impound.
Okay, so a nominal fee is it $50?
It usually is about $25, $50.
I think it probably is $50. So even if a Good Samaritan took it in the first time, they're going to be charged that $50?
So they would be given a summons for that process. However, when they go to the violations bureau, and again, the violations bureau is like a parking ticket. So look at it from that standpoint. They go and they express their concern. The violation bureau typically for a first time violation would waive that and give them a letter that says, if you have no similar violations in the future. So if it happens in the future, that could be retroactively added on top of any new fees that would be incurred as a new penalty for that. We'll call it a dog parking ticket for the violations bureau.
Okay, so the violations, that's not a municipal court, correct?
It's a part of it. So if you go to the desk,
okay.
that's where you would pay all your parking tickets, your violation bureau tickets, which could be a variety of things. Someone could get an open container and get a violations bureau and not have to pay go to court. They just pay a fine for the violation that would have occurred.
Okay, I appreciate that clarification. Thank you very much.
And just one thing I'd like to hear clarification on. You mentioned when they go down to pay or to the counter or wherever they have to pay that fee, that's not required prior to them taking the animal home, right?
No, they would receive the summons and they'd be able to do that within 14 days or however it's instructed on the back of their violations bureau ticket.
Okay, thanks for confirming that.
And there was a lot of confusion about this due to a few activities, and I apologize for the confusion. I hope that makes it a little bit easier and more approachable and understanding how impound. And And look at it from this standpoint, a violations bureau is really a cost recovery for the paperwork and fees that would be incurred as part of the contract for the city of Inglewood. It barely covers 10% of our annual contract with the shelter. So it's more of an administrative so that it covers some of the cost recovery that we have associated with the shelter. Maybe the animal is cared for 2 hours, but it allows them to scan for microchip, do background, allows for us to investigate for any kind of cruelty and to make sure it has its vaccinations. So that's really the purpose of that process.
Member Emma Hines?
Yeah, I just have a question for Code Manager Lewis. In terms of this process of going from the first slap on the hand, shall we call it, where, you know, you let your dog out, somebody found it, took it to the pound, where you're not charged, to the second one, which could potentially be $300.
So no, so it's a sliding scale with the violation bureau, and I'd like to again just reference this more as a parking ticket. It's not a criminal violation. It's a fine, and it's a sliding scale. So your first violation, you may have to pay up to $50 or it may be waived. But if you have a second violation, the penalty increases, and you may also be asked to pay the original warning if it happens within like a year period.
So is there any fixed sort of slide to that sliding scale, or is it done sort of arbitrarily? What's the process there?
So the municipal judge is the one that sets the fines. It's outside the scope of my authority and city council's authority.
Okay, thank you.
And is there any specifics to the way it's implemented in regard to if the first incident happened and they paid $50 and another incident, you're saying within a year, if something else happens, they might have to pay a higher amount for the first one too?
No, so basically you have to look at it as a deferred judgment. If they say, okay, I won't do this again, the violations bureau has the authority to say, okay, great, this is your warning. It's an official written warning. But if it happens again in the future, you may be asked to pay this $50 fine plus the additional fine, which goes up. So each violation, it goes up. On the third offense, it's a mandatory court appearance.
Got it. So you're saying that if that first 50 had been waived,
Yes,
okay,
it could be
or
asked.
not waived, but deferred.
Deferred, it could be paid, required to be paid back.
Okay. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions on the Title VII or City Council Member Russell's thoughts on wondering if there's anything we could do to make the Good Samaritan recommendation more clear, or anyone? And Code Manager Lewis, how would you like, should we want to encourage that perspective from City Council? I mean, to me, like, I get what you're saying about it being processed, but whenever something's not codified, it makes me concerned, because as people change, time goes by, intent of process can change, the effects could change when it's not, written in as a specific thing. And is there like a way to address that in a long-term, actually, maybe not municipal code codified, but some way that we could know that that's the intent and the way it's going to happen moving forward?
So it is, the Violations Bureau information is set up within code. That process is already established. And it is the judge who sets most of the fines and fees associated with the different aspects. They are updated every year with that office. And that's just the separation of powers under our Constitution. I'm the executive branch. And so I am only able to follow what the judicial requires, as well as the legislative branch. So that's why we have checks and balances on that part.
But the process for when a dog is, like, if my dog got out the first time, broke through a weak part of my fence, neighbor took it to the pound, you I find out quickly, I go down there, I contact you, you come, someone from code enforcement comes and gives me the ticket, essentially. Like, the fact that that is going to be a ticket, I thought was based on an agreement between the city and the pound, and not actually I didn't see it written in the Title VII that someone has to get a ticket in that scenario.
It says it's may. We use discretion in those, and that's how all of our ordinances, criminal, non-criminal, and penalties are written, just like a parking ticket. You have to look at it kind of like the aspect of a police officer out doing speeding tickets. He has that officer has the discretion based on the circumstances whether or not to issue a ticket. And that's the way ordinance is written. If you put specific required, like shall or will in there, then that takes all discretion and circumstances. We don't give tickets to every single person, a Good Samaritan situation. Sometimes things happen that are outside the control, and we do take those into consideration. This isn't, again, this is a process. There's no agreement between the shelter and us. Their responsibility is to care and house for the animal, but they also have requirements to make sure that that animal is healthy and safe to be back out in the community. And we want to make sure if there's an animal running at large that we do take that report and we capture that information. We don't know how long that dog's been out running. We don't know if that dog is not nice to other animals and has bitten other animals when it's been out, or other people. And so it really is a balance and checks of the health and safety of our community.
Hold on. Do you all hear me right now?
Yes.
I do.
I had a weird switch on my audio for some reason. Thank you, Code Manager Lewis. One question, I thought you did say that there was an agreement between the shelter and the city that anytime a dog is brought in that was captured within city limits, that they have to contact code enforcement.
It is best practice for any shelter, not just ours. This is sheltering communities throughout the country and the state. That they work collaboratively with their local animal welfare law enforcement agency to make sure that information is captured. And so this is something that the shelter does not just with the city of Inglewood, but they also serve a multitude of city entities in the adjoining areas, from Greenwood Village to Cherry Hills to Littleton. They provide those services for those communities as well. They also pay contracts and also subscribe to the best practices.
Okay. Any other questions for Code Manager Lewis on this? Okay, do you want to go ahead into the reports,
Yes.
Code Manager Lewis?
So first off, I owe you all an apology. For some reason, I thought second quarter had been delivered to you all. And there was a process error, and that was not transmitted as I had previously thought it was done in part of this committee. So that is my responsibility. And I take ownership of that not being transmitted. The report was done, it just was not transmitted or conveyed to this body. It's usually done within 30 to 45 days after the close of the quarter. And I know, I think Carson and Councilmember Russell are the only two original members on this panel that would remember the fancy graphs and charts that you would receive on a monthly basis. That was our old system called Track It. And that system, as you know, did not conform to criminal justice records reporting. It did not capture information. It was not being updated. The system actually is no longer operating nationwide. And so we had to move to a different type of reporting system. The upside with our current RMS system is we have a separate module that's built onto the police department. It was a custom module within that system that does capture reporting and information far more accurately But it does not self-generate or print out those fancy color-coded reports that two of you have seen before. And so it is very burdensome on code enforcement. We can print all of the statistics and raw data, but in order to utilize that material, we have to analyze it and hand put it into documents so that it's more meaningful and readable for the community and yourselves and council to understand trends and what's happening with our statistics. And so that's why I know Council Member Russell was concerned that we had these beautiful reports that were once generated. That was not done through the office. That was an automatic system. And there is a council request generated regarding that, and that information will be relayed to council as well. But I wanted you all to know, because it's been a conversation of this committee as to why we're not getting the similar types of reports. And that's just why. Even the police department, it doesn't print out, it prints out data, but it doesn't provide or self-generate those types of pretty reports, which was a great feature of the old system, but the old system also didn't capture information, subjects, owners, dogs, property owners. It didn't capture all of that information correctly. And so our system was very outdated. So with that being said, you all should have Q2 to go over. And I didn't know if you had any questions about Q2 or Q3. The only two things that I would say is you'll notice different changes in the amount of weed enforcement versus snow enforcement. That's seasonal. It goes with the amount of snow we have and how warm we get quickly and how many weeds are generated sooner rather than later. Some seasons we have snow that goes very late and we have cold seasons. Last year, unfortunately, was a warmer season. So weed season started and we didn't have as many snow type incidents. And that's the same with third quarter. You'll also see that, oh, sorry, I closed one of my reports.
Are these, is the second quarter, are those numbers supposed to be just for the second quarter? It's not cumulative for the year?
No, so you'll get one for each quarter, and then about 45 days past the end of December, you'll receive a cumulative year. Full year report that would be cumulative for the whole year.
Both of these have 235 snow removals. Third quarter, we had 235 snow removal.
It was a weird number. It's just the way that the numbers transferred. And again, it's from the way the system reports itself. I'll go back and double check that one. That might have calculated incorrectly, just that one, but I don't think so. None of the other numbers are duplicating, so that might have been a human error. But I'll double check that one.
Thanks. Anyone else have any questions?
The other trend that you would see is you'll see a huge increase in park rules violations. That would correlate with the hiring of park ranger year after year. And the park ranger, we're just now going into this, we'll be starting the second season in January. So that's why you would see a large increase in park rules violations. And those could be anything from dogs in shelters to smoking cigarettes in parks to not having proper permits. It could be a variety. We have several park rules: flying a drone in the park, camping in a park, overnight parking in one of the parks. And so that information would be captured there.
There are other numbers that are complete duplicates between the second and third quarter reports.
Are there?
Yeah, weeds, trash and litter.
Huh. I apologize for that. I'll have to double check to see if for some reason the date was off when we ran the report. Let me double check that. Again, if that is, it's a human error and I apologize for that.
I mean, it's not cumulative unless some of them are, but yeah, like I seriously doubt in the previous years the second and third quarter were exactly the same on weeds and trash and litter. Like, I mean, you can see like there's definitely duplication here. Member Emma Hines?
I understand the park rules being higher, and that makes a lot of sense. Do you have any other breakdowns, Dave, about what, are there other categories under park rules? I guess, again, coming from where I am with Bellevue Park, I'd kind of be curious to know what that means more than just park rules.
There is not. We can only capture it because, again, we have a built out separate section. And so it captures a variety of different categories. We can't break those down any further within our system. So it would have like a variety of things that are listed under animal control. It'd have a variety of different things that would be under code enforcement, such as weed enforcement. That's where you get some of those breakdowns. But we're not able to specifically break out the 50 some different park rules that would apply.
Are they recorded in the reports? What rule violation there was?
Usually it would have in the narrative portion, but that's something that we would not be able to extrapolate.
Would park rule, if you found an animal running in the park, would that fall under park rules or animal control?
They would fall under animal control for dog at large.
Okay, so in fact, the park rule could be broken that isn't being recorded that way, I suppose.
So we always take the high, because we would be duplicating a report. And so we can't select more than one option for that report. We can only select the highest of the value. So if we had park rules and animal control, we can only select one of the highest, and a running at large would be a higher category than a park rules violation.
Thank you.
And member Emma Hines, that's something that we've asked about before as well, like, because there's certainly lots of examples where one incident could tick multiple boxes. And that's been the consistent way that Code Manager Lewis has explained it, is whichever one is they have to pick one what do you call it? Like primary violation
Primary
category.
violation.
Yeah. Member Hughes?
Yes, I had a question. Could you refresh me what ROW stands for?
Yes, it's a right of way obstruction. So we found this summer when we were doing a lot more of our alley inspections that a lot of residential properties were storing trash or outdoor storage or an accumulation of junk or discarded tree branches in their alley behind their fences. And so that would be what that would correlate with.
Okay. And when it says citizen concerns, are most of those done online, or are they called in, or what?
We can't break down the two, but it is either an online report through the Q alert system, an email, or a phone call.
Okay, all right. And the email would be to you?
There's a general code enforcement email on the website.
Okay, all right, great. Thank you.
Any other just high level or specific sense of things that has stood out to you, Code Manager Lewis, in going through this?
No, it makes sense where things would change, where we'd have enforcement activities increase, especially when related to parks versus animal control, because prior to that, we were capturing all of our park enforcement animal control stuff under animal control. And so you would see a decrease in the animal control because we're now doing more park enforcement. So and if it's at an off-leash park during off-leash, non-off-leash hours, that would be a park rules violation, not at large, because we moved that section to be under the parks section. And so that's kind of where the trend that we're seeing. I'm not seeing any unusual trends like we had after COVID. We had talked about an increase in outdoor storage and trash issues. We're not seeing those trends currently.
City Councilmember Russell?
Thank you. So Code Manager Lewis, is it illegal to smoke in the parks? I mean, I know that a couple of years ago, we had some students come, but I thought council made it voluntary.
So it's a park rules violation, so it's not like they're gonna get a ticket for it. We just politely remind people that smoking in the parks is prohibited. And it was a student-led initiative, and so we just provide it from an educational standpoint.
Okay, I mean, because when council talked about it, we all agreed on council that it would be voluntary. It would be a suggestion.
And
All
we
right.
suggest that they not do that. There are no smoking signs that are posted in the parks.
Okay,
So
Thank
it's
you.
not something someone could get a ticket for.
We wouldn't give them a ticket. We politely remind them that our parks are smoke-free, and this was a student-run initiative, and that we had asked that they respect a student's point of view.
And just to reiterate, like the more of these I look at, the more the numbers are duplicated, graffiti, et cetera. So honestly, I'd like to see what these actually are probably in our next.
I'll have it to you
Packet.
before then, because I'll review it. There may have been a mistake that was made, and so I apologize. I'll double check that.
Any other questions for Code Manager Lewis? Okay, thank you very much. Do you have anything else for us, Code Manager Lewis?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
City Council Member Russell, it's your official time. I don't know if you have anything else for us.
Thank you. The one thing that we already talked about, that was one of the things that, I just have a couple of other things. Council right now is working on Title 16 code updates, and for about the last 3 weeks and probably through the end of the year, we're going to be going through all the suggested Title 16 changes. I know that doesn't impact you, but I think this is a pretty big undertaking for the city council. Planning and zoning and the steering committee have been hearing all of it, and now council is reviewing it, reviewing the draft. But anyway, there's that. And just, I know that Code Manager Lewis brought this up last time. Council did talk about the waste management postcard. I don't know how many of you got that postcard. And they're not doing alley pickup starting December 5th. At this point, council has decided to allow the market forces to address this situation. I did ask that during, in the waste hauler's trash license, it does say that the trash companies will pick up on Monday or Wednesday, and that there shouldn't be trash companies in Englewood all the time. Well, I think we got kind of lax when COVID hit. So I asked that we would start enforcing some of the rules that we have regarding trash companies. So that's what's going on right now. I have heard from several individuals. A lot of people have called Republic. Republic is picking up in the alley in certain parts of the city. So I think some people are changing trash companies. And council did ask staff to look into perhaps recruiting some other trash companies, maybe smaller ones that would do alley pickup. Because I know there are a lot of sections in Englewood that would be almost impossible to put your trash out front. So that's really all I have for now.
Any questions for Councilmember Russell? Member Hughes?
Yes, I think that the increase, at least what I see it when we go walking, is we see a lot of trash around, and it's coming from trash bins being set out there and trash blowing off it. Sometimes the lids are not put on because they're stuffed to the hilt, and things blow off, and it really trashes up all around the streets. You'll see it. It's not people throwing things. It's coming from the regular trash or not being picked up. I don't
Right.
know if there's any enforcement that you have to seal the lid or put the lid down. In our condo, I mean, I can't tell you how many times we have told the trash people that they have to put the lids down, and they don't. We will go out there and put the lids down ourselves. But it's really contributing, I think, in a bad way to Englewood, and lots of trash.
I appreciate that, and I have heard similar things. Some of it, it really is the trash company's fault because when they dump it, if it misses the truck, they don't necessarily pick it up.
No,
But
they don't.
in our neighborhood, we try to pick up after each other. When I put trash, 99% of the trash in my trash can is bagged in a big bag or a kitchen bag. So there's really no loose trash. There are occasionally are some things, but I get that. And I think that that is one thing we need to work on. And some of it is just citizens are going to have to take some responsibility to clean up, when that happens. But we do have trash blowing around in our neighborhood too, that came, from trash day. So I appreciate that.
I mean, one factor, since they're also moving away from the traditional service they've provided forever of yard waste, bundled branches and bags of leaves outside the bin, there's going to be a lot more bins that are open, not fitting everything in there. Anytime people are trimming trees and have branches and, small cars or no cars in the direction. I mean, the city's basically pushing for increased density, less cars, and now making it more difficult to have what you do need picked up by not, I'm not a fan of the way things are going. I'm on one of these blocks where it would be a nightmare to try to have bins in front of the house. And for the people in the middle of the block, it's even worse. Not to mention moving them that was one of the biggest concerns I heard when I was knocking on doors a few years ago when I was running for city council, was concern about not being able to move the things. And it's been traditional, if you have an alley in Englewood, that you don't even have to move them. You leave your bins on the alley and you take your trash and recycling out to them, and you don't have to touch them. And that's reasonable for most people. And it's unfortunate that city council isn't, holding the company's feet to the fire. And I'm sick of hearing about it being about safety. It's not about safety. It's about maximizing profits. That's what it's about. They want bigger trucks and they're going to lay a bunch of people off and automate things. It's got nothing to do with safety. Anyway, my soapbox.
I agree with you 100%. And the truth is, I thought it did say in the code that there would be alley pickup where there were alleys available. I don't believe it says that. It says it's somewhere in something. I believe the alleys were designed for utilities. I mean, originally when Englewood was formed, there was not trash pickup. There were incinerators in the back of everybody's yard. But generally they were back by the alley. So I think it just transitioned there anyway. So I hear you all, and I appreciate hearing from you all when you have suggestions or whatever, because I can bring it back. At some point, this whole thing about enforcing them to pick up in the alley, I think if there's enough citizens that want us to do that, I think that we can make an ordinance and we can force, but then that may mean some people leave, some trash companies leave the city, but that is their choice. If we have rules, they'll follow them or they won't pick up trash here. And I absolutely agree with you, Carson. It is all about the money. They only have to have one driver in one of those big trucks. But Logan is an awful street to have to put your trash out, especially down in the Swedish hospital area, because the workers fill up Logan. There is no place to put the trash cans out on Logan. So, but I think there's other places in the city, and you hit the nail on the head. It is about the high density and just increasing it. So
I received
will-
an email today from the city about this. I don't know if anyone else got that. I'm signed up on, basically getting all emails from the city, and I got an email from the city today, which I was pretty disappointed in because it basically, to me, repeats this propaganda line from Waste Management. Instead of, just stating it as facts, they're saying it's the city's email says it's about safety. It's not about safety. It's about profit. And it'd be nice to have the city not, bandstand for the line that Waste Management is pushing. We know that it's not necessary to do this. We know that in the RFP that we just went through, Republic was willing to pick up trash and recycling on alleys without issue. So Code
Would-
Manager Lewis, you had your hand raised.
No, I put my hand up by accident, but I will share this with you, and I hear your frustrations. I've spoken to a number of citizens on this topic. Unfortunately, there's nothing that my department can do other than direct them to a list of service providers that are licensed. I did have a talk recently with one of the routing managers, and he did express, and I know you're frustrated about safety. He did say that they were having a difficult time recruiting for specifically Inglewood or other areas that have alley side, because they were having a number of injuries because those people had to lift cans and move large trash cans into the trucks. And they were having more lifting and pulling related injuries and worker comp claims as a result of that. And that was shared with me as part of that, because I did express the frustrations. The citizens are coming to us. And so I wanted to just share with him, this is the feedback that I've heard. And he did share that aspect. I can't quantify that. That's not our role, and I can't ask for that information from them. But I did want to share that portion of what they were expressing to me in the city.
I would expect that would be a small fraction of potential safety issues compared to citizens, especially elderly, having to try to move their cans around down the alley and up the side and around to the front. Not to mention that with the increasing density and how many cars are on the street and how little room there is to be able to even have cans on the street, that's increasing safety problems in other ways. And I would bet that dwarfs the minuscule issue of whatever this guy was describing.
And I just wanted to give you that information just so that you had it. I don't agree one way or the other. My role is not in that aspect. And I think I've made my professional views known on this during the single hauler trash service conversation. So I'll leave that there.
City Councilmember Russell.
Thank you. I just would encourage you, actually, I would encourage all of you to email all of City Council and tell them your frustration. Carson, would you share that email with me? I mean, would you send it to me? Because I didn't get that email, but if enough people start reaching out to City Council and you all have suggestions of what we need to do, you all can put heat on City Council. And I can carry back what I've heard here, but you all could email all of City Council too. I will bring this up at my next liaison report. So, all right.
Thank you. Member Hughes.
I've lived in Denver and I've lived in Littleton, now here in Englewood. And then I don't understand, even in Littleton, where you had to put your trash out in front, there was a certain amount of time you could keep the trash bin there. It couldn't stay there. You had to take it back in and they didn't have alleys. But there was enforcement that you couldn't leave your trash bin out in front of your house. That's happening all over the place here.
And that is true. It is supposed to be enforced. Now, part of the reason trash cans are getting left out is because the trash company isn't picking up on the day they're supposed to pick up. But now, I also think if we don't do alley pickup, you're going to see a lot more of that. People are going to leave them out there all the time.
That's going to get a
And,
lot worse.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's going to look really bad. It's going to make Englewood look terrible.
I agree. Thank you.
So you're suggesting, Rita, that we write to city council and put our opinions forth on that?
Yes, I would. And I mean, don't identify yourself as a board member, but just as a citizen, because
Okay,
you have rights to do that. Okay?
yeah. And I'm just curious, you know, I know that I'd heard that there had been discussion about Englewood either contracting with one company or developing their own. And both of those were nixed?
Well, developing our own was never really an option because it is way too expensive. Denver started from the beginning. They had their own trash department. Now I think they are contracting out some because it is becoming, so that was never the option. And I think that Chair Green, since he was the chairman of that committee, the committee did come back and wanted the city to renegotiate. And that is not what council opted for. And so I don't know really what happened there because council, and I felt like they didn't negotiate enough. And the former chair before Chair Green told me that staff just didn't want to negotiate anymore because they didn't have a full consensus. I mean, if there aren't four board members or 4 council members, then staff doesn't really have consensus to move forward. So I don't know really what happened. But really, in my own opinion, free market is the best, as long as I was concerned when we got the postcard that there were market forces to create a monopoly. And I don't want a monopoly created, whether it's done by the company or really by the city.
And remember, Hughes, if you want to talk about that, I can tell you all the details about what happened
right.
there as well. So we can talk about that offline. Member Emil Hans?
I'm concerned, and I'm fortunate. I don't live in an area of town that has narrow streets. However, moving large bins out onto narrow streets with large numbers of cars, and as you said, Chairman Green, the move in the city toward higher density, I think this is just creating a huge traffic jam, both in terms of traffic on the roads as well as safety issues with regard to those trash cans. I think we're just beginning to see this, and I'm concerned that maybe we need to look outside of that picture of how we can provide this. You can play the chess game pretty quickly with the fact that if you put an ordinance in place that requires them to go down alleys, that you're basically, you're driving this into potentially monopolistic or definitely minimal service with high fees. So I guess I'm just expressing a concern at this point. And Councilperson Russell, I appreciate your views on this too. Is there anything, is there any direction that this could go? I guess is my question.
I think for right now, it's probably not going to go anywhere until more citizens start to come to speak to council or start complaining. Now, I will tell you, I am very concerned about the density, but what I've seen in the last 2 to 3 years, people have just quit coming to council. And if you all are concerned about the density piece, because the density creates more problems in a lot of areas, the citizens need to start stepping up to the plate and reaching out to council members and letting them know how they feel. And I mean, it's not just you on the boards and commissions do have some outlet, but you need to talk to your neighbors and friends too.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Russell, and thank you everyone for the engagement and questions. And did you have anything else for us, Councilmember Russell?
I do not. Thank you all for everything you do for the city. I appreciate it.
Thank you. So then we have our communications subcommittee. Vice Chair Watson is not here. Member Edevid, have you had a chance to communicate with anyone from the city in the communications department?
I sent an email. I haven't heard back, but I'll send a follow-up email.
Okay. Yeah, and keep Vice Chair Watson on that as well. And then
Yep. Yeah, they were.
okay. All right. Yeah. See if we can have some update on where things are at with that for the next meeting. Appreciate you taking that on.
Yeah, no problem.
And then, so we've already pretty much decided we're not going to do a meeting in December. Did anyone see any reason that you wanted to vote for a meeting next month? Okay, then we'll skip December and then we'll have our first quarterly in-person in January.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I believe that you need to take an actual vote on this, a motion, second, and a vote.
Okay, will someone please give me a motion for skipping our December meeting? Member Strom, thank you. Is there a second? Member Emmelhines, thank you. Will you please take a vote, Ms. Willis?
Sure. Chair Green,
Yay.
Member Strom,
Yay.
Member Hughes,
Yay.
Member Chisholm,
Yay.
Member Emmelhines,
Yay.
Member Redevid.
Yay.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. And then, like I was starting to say, we'll have our first quarterly in-person in January. So that'll be our usual time. So it'd be January 18th at 6 p.m. And we'll, does anyone have any, so committee member choice, any other, and as part of this, if you have any ideas or suggestions for things for us to discuss or look into, now would be a good time to do that. Anybody have anything? Okay. Thank you very much. We'll figure out what we're going to prioritize in our next meeting. That'll be a good thing to have on there. So I'll make sure we have that on the agenda. We can have some discussion around priorities and talk through that. Did you have something for us, Code Manager Lewis?
One, again, I just wanted to thank you all for participating, your feedback. I find it very helpful and insightful. My office is always open. If you want to come and meet with me, have a conversation, want to dive deeper into code, I am available to meet with all of you one-on-one. I can't meet in large groups without doing a post notice. But if you'd like to receive additional education on anything, that is open. But I also, more importantly, wanted to wish you all a great holiday season, whatever you are celebrating with you and your families. And I want you to have a very special new year. And I look forward to seeing all of you again after the 1st.
Thank you very much, Code Manager Lewis. And
Thank you.
yes, thank you. Thanks everyone. And I hope everyone also has great holidays. I see that I'm just now noticing these chats. Member Redevid, you sent us a bunch on the chat. So I don't know if everyone is seeing that. Would you please send an email with all of that to Ms. Willis, and then she can send it out to the rest of us?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, thank you. I'd appreciate it because it looks like you put together some interesting resources. So I'd like to make sure everyone gets to see that. Okay, then unless anyone else has anything, we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone.
You.